Hello, hello, everyone. Jesse here from Call Action and our esteemed guest and techno nerd, Jason Walters.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for
uh,
that full introduction.
I'm going to make
Techno.
it a little. I'm going to make it a little bit better. Well, you are the tech guy, and you specialize in all the automation and everything. So I'm trying to make do where I got to make do, like pay credit. Since my introduction is not good enough, I'll let you kind of tell your story a little bit here, Jason. You want to go
Um,
ahead and
uh,
do
my,
that intro?
my name is Jason Walters. I'm a realtor with Keller Williams Realty out in Ventura County. I've been selling properties for almost 14 years. I
Nice.
run a small team, it's just 2, 3 people, and
Okay.
together we do about 40 transactions,
Good.
and I like to. I like to stay right here as I do those transactions.
Right. In your marketplace, what's kind of the average price range? Give us kind of some of that background information, maybe price range, square footage, bedroom, bathroom, so on and so forth.
Well, the typical median price range I'm selling homes is about three to about 500,000, 600,000.
Okay.
Every once in a while I sell some 7, 8 million, 2 million, but not as often as I'd like.
Right.
So
What's your biggest ever? What's the grand slam you've had?
just under 3 million, just under 3 million.
Not a bad day at work at the office.
No, no, it was a lot of zeros, man. So I was happy.
Awesome. Well, very good. We definitely appreciate you coming on board here. So we'll kind of jump into it. I know that you do a lot of technology, a lot of automation, generate a lot of online leads. Can you tell us a little bit about your tech stack? In other words, what technologies are you using to run your business currently? Maybe website, CRM, and then we'll get into lead sources and things like that.
Okay, well, I use a lot of online, apps and
Okay.
extensions and softwares. My favorites, of course, are Call Action, right? And so Call Action. A heavy Lion Desk user. I
Okay.
also I also use IFTTT, which is
Okay.
if this, then that. I'm
Okay.
using
And that
Zapier.
and that for some people that don't know exactly what IFTT and Zapier is, can you explain a little bit what those two products do?
Yeah, so basically you have all these software programs or apps that you use, but none of them really communicate with each other.
Right.
So that's where Zapier and IFTT come in.
Okay.
For instance, if I get an email from this specific search query, I want you to text this person. Or
Okay.
every time I post on Facebook, I want you to post it to LinkedIn.
Okay.
That type of stuff. They get Zapier gets really in depth. So I'm like with Zapier, I have connected you can connect Call Action with Lion Desk. You can connect. I'm using Woofu forms
Okay.
with my Lion Desk. And so every time somebody fills out one of my Woofu forms, that contact gets automatically synced with my Lion Desk.
Okay. So a lot of efficiency in terms of eliminating data entry. Because if
Hmm.
you get, let's say, 500 leads a month or, calls and things like that, you're not needing to do that data entry of those things. So even a couple minutes each times 500 is, 1,000 minutes.
Everything, everything I do that's repetitive, so I'm like,
Okay.
gosh, I've been doing this over and over.
Right.
I figure out a way to automate the
To
process.
automate the process. Okay. So Zapier, IFTT handle most of your online forms and things like that. And, shameless plug, phone calls, basically logged in through call action, I'm assuming, into your
Well, Call
directly to your
Action,
line.
I'm using the Lion Desk email, the
Okay.
my email address from Lion Desk. So when I get the Call
Okay.
Action lead, it just forwards it via email to Lion Desk, and they merge it.
Okay, perfect. Cool. And kind of going into the business, basically, into the real nuts and bolts, what are your kind of primary pillars of your business, you think, at this point in time?
Well, I get a lot of business from online reviews and Google
Okay.
search. Okay,
Okay.
so people are going into Google and searching for a realtor in my area.
Okay.
Going to Zillow and pulling me up by my profile. The amount of
Okay.
sales I have, versus the amount of reviews I get. So
Okay.
I get a lot of inbound phone calls from sites like I mentioned, Zillow,
Okay.
Google, Yelp. I place their website, and
Okay.
Facebook. Um, those type of websites where people are doing searches and coming across my information and reaching out to me.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen here really quick, and we'll just do a quick Google search to kind of give people an idea of what we're talking about. So if we did Oxnard top Realtor, this is probably a pretty standard search result, I'm assuming. And as we kind of start to take a look in here, we see Yelp, 10 best agents. And if we click on that, and we can see in here,
Go back up. Go back up.
Oh, that's why, because I got to go to number one. That's why. So basically what you're getting is this traffic right here. Obviously, it shows that you respond very quickly. So that search, when we kind of take a look, this is going to happen very often. And you're also here in Google Search Maps.
Yep. You see I'm in the maps. My Google profile is also right there.
Okay, perfect. So you're actually taking up two of the top spots just behind Zillow, and I'm sure you have a strong Zillow profile as well. If we took a look in here, you're probably in here as well, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, I should be. I'm not a premier agent anymore, so I'm not sure how far down the list they put me now.
Okay, and the reason why you really don't need it, because you have this traffic that's popping up here, and if we look at the Google Maps, you actually have 22 Google reviews, which is significantly higher than anybody else. So I'm sure that's going to generate a lot of phone calls.
Yeah. So the Google reviews is awesome too, because not every agent has a Google profile to start out with, and then the ones that do have a Google profile, you need to spend a lot of time and effort to build it and work on it, which I've done.
Okay. And if you had to take a guess, most of these inquiries here off of your Google Maps and Google profile, since Oxnard is kind of it's kind of made up a little bit of like second home and things like that. No, is that fairly common?
Well, I'd say a big traffic that we have here is people coming down from Los Angeles area because they want to buy a second home at the beach.
Okay.
Here, awesome beach houses like $2-3 million, where, about 20, 30 miles up the road, you're talking $20 million. Right. You also have, a lot of first time buyers, and you have a lot of VA. So you have a lot of people from the Navy. There's two Navy bases right here. So a lot of people relocating for short-term orders.
Okay. Yeah. So even on other terms, like let's say just general Oxnard Realtor, and you probably rank what for like Ventura Realtor or something like that as well, I'm assuming.
Well, I sure hope. It kind of changes. You really have to.
Okay.
You really have to update it constantly, and with Oxnard, I have really. When I moved to Southern California, I moved to the city of Oxnard, and so I heavily used that as a keyword.
Okay. Right.
So I haven't really built up separate entities, for the different cities.
For the different areas.
They've really made it, like Yelp and Google have really made it city specific, the city that you're in. So we're trying to migrate them over to a different city and still not miss out on all of the current Oxnard inquiries I'm getting. That's the issue.
And if you had to take a guess, how many inquiries a month do you think come from your Google Maps and reviews and things like that?
I would say, a good handful. I'm getting probably, 20, about 20, maybe once a day I get, one from Google, maybe one from Yelp.
Okay. And then on Yelp, basically, in case people don't know, Yelp is the default search engine on an iPhone. So if you use basically Siri and you say, Oxnard Realtor, Jason would be popping up as pretty much the only search result at that point. So you're getting a fair amount of that business as well, I'm assuming too, right?
I have. I've actually, because I always ask, where did you come across my, how did you come across my profile? I don't really need to, I pretty much know where they're coming
Right.
from because of call action.
Okay.
But I've had people tell me that, Siri gave them my information.
Siri gave them the information.
And now the Echo is working on it as well.
Okay. Right.
There's other possibilities with the more of this home automation stuff comes out.
Okay. And so this can also drive traffic directly to your website and things like that. Now, the $1 million question, are you paying Yelp or did you just build up your profile over time?
So I have never paid Yelp a red cent.
Okay.
This has all been organic. Not
Okay.
saying that, I know people that do advertise on Yelp and, I get mixed reviews on that. But this is all organic. This is all just me burning the midnight oil.
Right. Okay. Sounds good. And so a fair amount of business that's coming from there, basically. Do you see a lot to your website, to your Playster website? Are you seeing like that referral traffic from Yelp as well, basically?
Yeah. So even when I get, like a lot of the times, my Playster incoming inbound, they say, oh, well, I was looking on Yelp and I found you there. So, they're going on Yelp and clicking the website and going and look me up on my website first. And then they're calling me from my call action Playster number and not my Yelp number.
Okay. And I'll kind of go into this a little bit. We're going to show here, this is basically Jason's call action account on the back end. And you can see this, what you're looking at is just a bunch of different phone numbers that he has on all of his different marketing sources. And so with this, Jason can know exactly where all of your transactions, the exact amount of leads, everything is basically tracked directly through these call tracking numbers. Is that pretty much correct?
Yeah. So what I've tried to do is put a different call action phone number for every possible lead source that comes in. So if I get a call from a particular site or something, and they say, I found you on here, and it's not a call action number, I'm immediately going to put a call action number assigned to it.
Right.
Someone said that they can't see your screenshots.
That's strange.
Is everyone else seeing the screenshots, or is this?
Let's see here. Not my computer. Let's see.
Okay, well, Randy says it's looking good. So I wanted to have a different number for every type of inbound call, so that not only I could be able to track where the calls are coming from, but when I do get a call, if I'm really busy, but it's a lead, I'm going to take that call as opposed to maybe it's an agent that I can get back to, at a later time. So now I know when leads are coming in, and it's very important for me to answer the phone.
So between the day, we know that being in the industry, we get a ton of phone calls, whether it's, vendors trying to sell you stuff. It could be, escrow, title, your termites, basically a lot of different phone calls that are coming in throughout the day. And most of that is filtered into your mobile number. But what you're saying is by running these different phone numbers, you're being alerted to where the call is coming from. So you could be a little bit more, you'll have a little bit more control of your time to determine which call you should be taking or not taking, because you know that it's a money call or not a money call.
Exactly. If I'm eating lunch or something and, escrow's calling me, I could, call them right back after I finish my meal. But if it's, a hot Yelp lead, I might, jump on the phone. It might run off to a quiet place. And then Randy's asking, what's the default number? That's just my original call action number that I was given from the account. and I actually don't have that assigned to anything. So
Okay.
the rest of the numbers, I built up from there.
Okay, perfect. So if we can kind of go through some of these right now, we see here at the top, this appears to be mostly some for sale signs or your yard signs. Are you running a dedicated phone number for each sign, or you have a couple different signs running simultaneously?
So this is the newest addition to my call action numbers. And this was one of the best things that changed in my business.
Okay.
All of my yard signs would have the same phone number. So,
Okay.
which was my default, it's my default Google Voice number. So every time I get a call off the signs, I don't know if it's a lead. Oh, I don't
Right.
know where they're calling me about. Right? It jumps into what we were just talking about. It could be the termite company calling me.
Right.
So now I have a different call action number for every different yard sign, and I
Okay.
just change around, the campaign name and the autoresponders every time I move the sign to a different property. And so this has been really effective to be able to track how many sign calls I'm getting from every sign. So
Okay.
I can update my sellers, show them a log of how many people have called off the sign. I
Right.
can distinguish between my call log to see, what they were calling about,
Okay.
and then the best part is before, if I didn't answer, my when I called them back, it was kind of vague. Hey, I just missed a call. Who are you?
Right.
What are you calling me about? Where
Right.
now, if I miss a call, they're going to get a text message from me, and it's going to, ask them questions, basically about, were you calling about this property? So it's kind of,
Okay.
they're going to get the information that they were requesting or originally calling me about through the
Okay.
autoresponders.
So this is what you're saying is the autoresponders in call action. You basically went in here into manage and then set up these autoresponders to be kind of property specific,
Correct.
saying like, thanks for calling me about Faulkner, basically. I'm on
Correct.
another line or I'm with a customer right now. How can I help you? And then that
Yes.
person now is engaging with you via text. So before you even talk to them in person, you know what property they're talking about, and you know kind of what their question already is, whether it's to schedule a showing or availability or whatever they're trying to verify. Is that
Exactly.
okay?
And one of the autoresponders will actually send them a link to the property profile,
Oh,
so
nice.
that they can hopefully click on it, go to
Uh-huh.
the page to see the pictures, and hopefully, it'll capture their info. Capture their info again if they schedule an appointment or
Right.
request a showing from my webpage that I sent them to.
Oh, okay. Perfect. And so let's kind of just go down some of these other ones. The KW website sounds like this might be your profile basically that you have on the official KW website. Is that
I'm
correct?
sorry, I'm over here reading these questions. Randy's
Oh,
asking. No, I filter all the inbound calls, and then from there I qualify them and send them to my buyer's agents. And then I don't know, could the call action leads be fed over to Get Riley? Are you doing that?
Uh, yeah, you can definitely do that. We're talking to Daniel, but it would be through an email export, and you can pass the leads over there, and then they can start to engage basically and build some delays. Barry kind of talked about that in our last webinar, Barry Jenkins,
Hmm.
and so yeah, that is definitely possible.
Okay, now you're asking me about my KW website.
Right. So if we can just kind of go down some of these, we have looks like the KW website. So I'm assuming that's your profile website
Uh-huh.
on the official KW website.
Hmm.
Um, LA number that is.
So I basically created like a Los Angeles prefix, so
Oh,
that
okay.
when I'm, running any type of like Facebook advertisement, I could put the LA numbers, in
Okay.
hopes that the LA people would be more,
Receptive.
accepted to call that number as opposed to an 805 number.
Okay. Instagram, obviously your Instagram profile with the click to call button that can take place on there. And then here, this looks like your text tool. So are you using the sign writers and things like that basically off of your
Um,
yard signs?
I have mentally been using them for a long time, but but I haven't actually had them made. So I know we've been
Okay.
talking, going a lot of back and forth about,
Okay.
the best way to use the sign writers.
Okay.
So I will be ordering sign writers using this text tool. And so the people that don't want to call the sign, it's going to say, for property info, text this number. It's also, we were talking about doing the 3D tour.
Right. The Matterport thing that
So
you did the other day.
text
Okay.
3D to get, the 3D walkthrough.
Right. Right. Okay. Cool. And so the rest of this looks like just basically different lead sources, Zillow, your Zillow dedicated Zillow profile. Are you getting some calls from that by chance, or?
I am. I definitely
Okay.
am. I'd say Zillow, Yelp, my Google business page,
Okay.
my Facebook business page. Those are
Okay.
those are the main
The main
inbound.
sources. Okay. And right now, are you doing a lot of um, Facebook retargeting based off of those phone calls? In other words, are you downloading the list from call action and then re-uploading that back up as a Facebook custom audience, or not doing that as of yet?
No, not doing that as of yet. I
Okay.
haven't been. I haven't ran a mass
Okay.
amount of Facebook ads this year. I've been
Okay.
trying to go fully organic.
Okay. Okay. Makes sense. So constantly reviewing or working on getting the reviews, delivering top level service, and in turn, that service level and being responsive is taking what would be technically an online lead and almost creating a sphere type of lead where now you're getting referrals from those online leads. Is that pretty
Exactly,
accurate?
exactly. So another main source of my business is in working
Okay.
my database through LionDesk, and
Okay.
keeping track of all. I got a database of like 4,000, 5,000 people. So
Okay.
there's a lot of people in there that are buying and selling that are not buying and selling from me, right?
Right.
So contacting my database and setting
Okay.
them up on automated campaigns is what a lot of my
Okay.
focus is these days.
Okay. So we know that, I think NAR says it's like 10% of the population is constantly moving at any point in time. So if you've got 4,000 names in your database, that's almost, 400 possible people that are relocating at any point in time. So your goal is to try and stay top of mind with those people on a regular basis, right?
Yes, that's
Okay.
the idea. There are some other automated software programs out there that
Okay.
I'll go ahead and give a shout out. Like First is a software program out there that will go through your database
Yep.
and try to pull out the ones that are most likely to sell. So I've also
Yeah.
experimented a little bit with that too. So
Some of the predictive analytics. Yeah. First, the guys from First, they were part of the Reology Forward finalists last year in the same group that we were as basically best new startup for real estate. And yeah, they're doing some amazing stuff, kind of like Smart Zip, but you can feed it your own
right, your own,
database, basically.
yeah,
Yeah.
rather than just using a geographical location.
Right, right. Awesome. And, you had talked about, having some of these people giving you calls and things like that. And you had mentioned call action, doing its autoresponder. I know one time there's a pretty good story that you had shared with us and posted in our private Facebook group, which was that you were at school volunteering and you got a phone call. Could you kind of tell us a little bit what happened during that time?
Yeah, definitely. That's one of my favorite stories of ours, right? So, I was volunteering a lot. It's summertime right now, but at my kid's school. So about 2-3 times a week, I'd go over there and volunteer.
Right.
And this one day, I'm working and doing some, I don't know, crafts or something, and I can't come to
Mhm.
my phone, let alone sit there and take a real estate phone call in the kindergarten class, right? So my phone was even on silent, and
Okay.
I pick up my phone to just to look at it and see what's going on, and I
Mhm.
noticed that I had a missed call. Okay,
Okay.
traditionally you have a missed call that you haven't responded to in half an hour. I wasn't going
Mhm.
to really be able to call them for probably another half an hour. And,
Right.
by that time, especially since I do get a lot of business from these, referral review sites, they'll keep going to the next person and, until somebody
Right.
answers the phone. So they had called me. I missed the call. And because they had called one of my call action phone numbers,
Right.
uh, the autoresponders took place.
Okay.
So I had an autoresponder go out immediately after I missed a phone call from call action that said, I'm on the other line, something of that nature.
Right.
How can I help you? So
Hmm.
they responded back. I have a house in Oxnard I need to sell.
Okay.
I found you online and, wanted to talk to you about selling my home.
Right.
So at that point, if you don't respond to, you just sent them a text immediately. They
Right.
respond to your text and then you don't text them back for half an hour. That's kind of
Right.
fishy.
Right.
It's not that, in my mind, not that, professional. So
Hmm.
with call action, if you don't respond to their inbound text after 4 minutes, call action sent them another text message that said, okay, great. Can I get back to you in a few minutes? And they
Right.
had responded, sure, no rush, just get back to me when you can. And
Hmm.
so at that point, the person stops calling, right? They've
Right.
already made contact with someone. They're expecting a call
Hmm.
from that person. I was able to call them back about 20, 30 minutes after the whole call action convo happened.
Right.
And eventually I ended up listing that property and
Right.
getting a pretty nice commission from it. And I owe it all
Nice.
to Jesse and call action.
So a little bit of phone freedom, not feeling like you have to be a slave to your phone and answer to everything, basically, made kind of a big difference for you, because obviously it closed a transaction that you may have missed, because if they found you online, as we saw from, the Zillow profiles or the Google search or anything like that, the next agent's only a button click away. So they don't even have to dial the phone number anymore if you're on mobile. So.
Before call action, okay, you can ask
Mm-hmm.
my girlfriend. Well, anytime we were anywhere, the phone rings, I'm taking off.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
I'm
Right.
going to find a quiet place because
Okay.
I don't know who's calling me. It could be $1 million listing. It could
Right.
be, someone wanting to buy right away. I don't know what the
Okay.
call is. It could be, a vendor calling me,
Right.
but I didn't know who it was. Could be some money on the phone. So, I rely
So.
heavily on my inbound traffic for business. So
Right.
I'm running off to a corner somewhere. And,
Right.
I'm spending a lot of my, the time away from the office on the
Uh-huh.
cell phone, in a
Right.
quiet place, trying to have a convo. And then you can't even write anything down. You
Okay.
try and write with a pen on your lap or something.
Right.
And, with the call action, it transcribes all my phone calls. I can go back
Mm-hmm.
and see where the call came from. If I forgot the person's name, now I
Okay.
get their name again. If I
Right.
forgot what property they were calling on, I might have even forgot what they asked me, right? Oh yeah, I'll get right back to you. But
Right.
I'm like, gosh, what did they want again?
Right.
So with call action, man, it did away with all that. Now if
Okay.
I'm somewhere, a movie or something, the phone
Mm-hmm.
rings, I don't sweat
Mm-hmm.
it, especially if I see it's coming from a call action number, right?
Right. And, I mean, at the end of the day, you could do this with any tracking system. So you can, put dedicated phone numbers on each one of those sources. But I think what we're really trying to drive home here is this knowing where your leads are coming from, just like online, you could know exactly and measure the ROI off of each one of your lead sources because you know exactly where the lead came from. But there's also all of these phone calls, and the phone calls are probably the best possible leads that you can get. And that's kind of a blind spot because everybody just runs all of their phone calls all to the same phone number, as you were kind of alluding to before. And now being able to kind of pick and choose and have a little bit more control of your time, and knowing that you don't have to answer every single phone call that comes in, but only the most pertinent ones or the ones that you spent money to try and advertise and generate that lead, that first point of contact, you feel a lot more comfortable. It gives you a little bit more freedom, I'm assuming.
It's awesome, man, because everybody has autoresponders, right? For
Right.
their Zillow leads, their Realtor.com leads, whatever. They
Mm-hmm.
have those autoresponders, but that's only if the person clicks like request more info, right?
Right.
That's not if they're hitting the click to call. And
Right.
there isn't, they're not running autoresponders for their click to calls. So
Right.
all of those, and those click to calls, like you said, that's money right there. That person wants to talk to you now. They don't want
Right.
to request information. They want it. They want to speak with you immediately.
Right.
So that was a big portion of my business, and they were falling through the cracks because I had no type of system in place to track them or to respond, or any type of autoresponders for missed phone calls.
Right. I'll share this chart here real quick, basically. And I don't know if you can see this or not, but we kind of talk about the search phase, right? Like, what is the real estate search journey? And if you think about it, at first, what's going to happen is a lot of leads are starting in this aspirational search, meaning the very, very top of the funnel where they're 12 to 18 months out, and they're looking at, the old saying, real estate porn late at night, basically. And as time kind of progresses, they get into this research phase where they're going to find out, can I qualify? And they're talking to friends and family and narrowing down maybe areas. So that search from Ventura Beach House might all of a sudden become Oxnard, and it's going to continuously get deeper and deeper and more specific down even into the city or the neighborhood names. And so this is where they get a lot closer. And then at the end of that phase is what we call kind of the transactional phase. This is where the people are inquiring directly about seeing property. And what we know, NAR data says that the average person is going to look at about 10 homes over a 10-week period once basically they're out and driving around and looking at those properties. And, I'm assuming what you're seeing is those phone calls that you're getting from your yard signs and maybe your online presence. Are they kind of these transactional bottom of the funnel phone calls, meaning like, hey, I'm interested in seeing a house like, in the very near term or something like that? Or are they way up here in the aspirational phase? Where are you seeing your phone calls in this funnel?
I got a phone call yesterday, okay, off a listing that's not mine.
Okay.
And they wanted to see it within 3 hours.
Okay. So they're really down here in this transactional phase then.
Yes. I just got a phone call last week, same thing. They wanted to set up appointment immediately. So, I think, and that's a good point that you brought up, when they click request information, I would think that's more higher up the funnel. But when they're clicking a click to call and actually want to talk to a human being, they're ready to do something. They're ready to make a move. Right.
They have that high sense of urgency because, if someone has spent 12 or 18 months looking at homes, and let's be honest, consumers nowadays know most areas better than we know the areas because they're hyper focused on seeing every single home that is available, because every night they're looking at, Realtor.com or Zillow or a local MLS site or something like that, or ideally your agent website. So they're very hyper familiar with the area. So when they finally find something they like, they have this, high sense of urgency, which is why you're getting that phone call, like them trying to accomplish a task, meaning like, I want to see this property. So I'm assuming, what they're seeing is maybe they called that listing agent or, called someone on Facebook or, wherever they originally saw that listing, didn't get an answer, do a Google search for Oxnard Realtor or top Oxnard Realtor. They see your Yelp page. That Yelp page says that you've responded 100% of the time in less than 1 hour. So they know that you're hyper responsive. And now basically they're giving you that at-bat by calling you directly. And since you're running the call tracking phone number, exactly that is a money call basically coming in. Is that kind of a pretty fair journey statement, you think, from your consumers?
Yes, definitely. When they're calling from Yelp, another thing that I noticed too is, we're talking about the finding me on the search portals and reviews, they're very, how do I say, like loyal to you. They've already kind of searched for other people. No one's been responsive. They find you, they see the reviews, they see you responsive. They're like, hey, finally, bingo. I've found the person I want to work with. And then even if they see I'm highly responsive, if they call me, even if I don't answer the phone, you do know how many times I either text them or call them right back, and they're like, gosh, thank you so much for responding so quickly. So even if I don't answer with the call action and I call them right back, it's amazing how much they appreciate a phone call back, which just goes to show not many people are, the other day you posted something. What's the average response time? Or someone posted the average response time on a text was like 30 minutes. A phone call was like 2 hours or something. So traditionally, they're calling someone, they don't answer. It's probably at least an hour or two, if never, that they get a phone call back.
Right. Let me see if I can pull up that PDF. I'm showing here kind of on the screen, an example basically of some NAR studies that show responding within a minute, you have a huge lift in lead conversion, and then it dramatically drops down. And this is usually just because every minute that passes by is that person calling somebody else. And, we already know that NAR data shows that the average person is going to, talk to a total of like 1.7 agents that they're actually going to work with or interview for the position. So if you're the first one to respond, and we know that's one of the number one qualities that they're looking for, then basically your chances of converting that into a transaction, go way, way up. Now, you mentioned these people are asking for like a showing in 3 hours. Are you able to make that happen, or are you able to kind of diffuse that by being responsive up front and saying like, hey, I would like to show it for you in 3 hours, but, we've contacted the seller and, realistically it's going to be tomorrow at whatever time that actually fits in your schedule. Do you have that ability to be able to do that? Just because you are responsive, so they'll work with you and be a little bit more patient?
Well, first things first, when I get these hot people, the first thing I'm going to do is obviously try to set them up with the appointment. But, she wanted to see it in 3 hours. If it took me about an hour and a half to call her back, that lead's gone. Okay.
Right.
And another thing I wanted to bring up is it's so hard to call someone back that you have no idea what they wanted. Right. So it makes it a lot easier phone call when you do know why they called or what they called on, or, they do respond to your text. But in that case, it does help to be a lot more responsive. I mean, I do have a buyer's agent, so I do have a partner that can go rent out and show them that place. But just the fact that I responded and gave them the information. And for instance, the one yesterday, I wasn't able to show the property at 5 o'clock. So we set up an appointment today for 4:30. Okay. So, that would have probably been a dead lead.
Right. Because just the fact that you would have delayed even responding would have given them or caused them to call somebody else and get an opportunity to somebody else, and you would have never known. And now
she had already mentioned that she had called a Redfin agent, but I was the one that was on the phone with her.
Right. So basically just being hyper responsive. Here on the screen, I'm pulling up basically a chart. This is from the California Association of Realtors, and this is a combination of both buyers and sellers. And just to kind of show how critical it really is to respond quickly, this study shows, the number one reasons why people selected the agent that they worked with. And you'll see here, obviously referrals, the previously worked with an agent is really high. But if you drop into here, first to respond, most responsive, most aggressive, actually makes up the vast majority of the number one reasons why basically a consumer selects basically the agent that they're going to end up working with. And so it seems like, your ability to know where the call is coming from, answering those phone calls, instantly engaging those phone calls is part of that reason of that success. And at the same time, a little bit more freedom for you because you don't have to answer every single phone call.
You ever heard of David Knox?
No.
He's just like some real estate coach guy that I used to watch when I first got my license. But he said he had this saying that stands out in my mind. That's always stood out. He says, "You don't have to be good; you have to be there."
Right. Right. You just have to be present. Half the battle, 90% of the battle is showing up, right?
Just, even if you're not the best, the fact that you're super responsive,
right.
And that they can get a hold of you is that's half the battle right there.
Yeah, we did a study one time. We ran a survey on lab coat agents, and it was pretty amazing. I asked a simple question. I said, what percentage of you let your calls go to voicemail?
Oh,
and we
yeah.
got about 500 responses through that because, lab coats is huge, basically a group online. If, shout out to lab coats. If you guys are not basically on Facebook group, join lab coats because you'll learn a bunch of stuff on there through Tristan and Nick. But at the end of the day, what we ended up finding was something like 40% of agents said that they purposely let the call go to voicemail. And that just kind of blew me away, that it was such a high percentage, basically. And the problem is that when you try and call back the consumer, that consumer doesn't recognize your caller ID, so then they don't pick up, right? They really have no reason to pick up because their business is probably not dependent upon talking to people because they have a regular job or something like that, and that job probably doesn't involve their cell phone. So right. You're losing tons of opportunities in there. And the other stats that we've been seeing is that people just don't leave voicemails anymore. Right? Because the experience of leaving a voicemail in the past, that if you left a voicemail, you would get a call back. But now we don't bother leaving a voicemail because if we know that person, we're just going to send a text message, right? So what percentage of people, if you had to take a guess on missed calls that you have, are actually responding back to your text messages?
It is a high percentage, okay? Basically, if they don't respond to my text message, I don't really care because you called me about something. I responded, and now you're cricket. So how serious were you? Sometimes I still have vendors calling my call action numbers because they'll do a Zillow search and they're calling me to sell me some shopping cart ads or whatever. If they don't respond, that's okay. But I know the ones that do respond, they mean business. Right. So I would say at least half of the people are going to be responsive. And then the ones that are responsive, they're all going to keep the communication open with me.
Once it starts, it kind of keeps going and it's perpetual because they have your contact information in their text message windows. So nobody ever deletes their text messages. So now it's easy for them to constantly re-engage you whenever they have a question.
Yep. I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah. And I, and kind of going back to your non-responsives, what we see on our data in call action, if they don't respond to your first text message, we send that secondary follow-up like 45 minutes later. Yeah, awesome. And what we found is in the first text message, we see about 70% of people will respond to that very first one. But out of those ones that don't respond to that first text message, we find about 29% will respond to the second text message. So it's pretty high, basically, percentage. And all of that, obviously happening through automation.
I love the nudge. And then it also will nudge you. So if they did respond to your text messages and you said, I'll get right back to you. And if 45 minutes goes by and you haven't, call action, you can call them through the call action app. So call action knows that you've made contact. So if you haven't responded to that text, it's going to nudge you as well. Hey, don't forget to follow up with this person, which is just awesome. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of it, which is pretty cool. And then and just to touch on what you were saying, man, it reminds me, I'm having this conversation with an agent. We're outside of one of their listings and the phone kept ringing and ringing. And I'm like, hey man, aren't you going to get that? Right. Oh no, I'll let it go to voicemail. And I remember telling them like, hey, you want me to grab that for you? I just remember sitting there thinking like, gosh, that could be some money just calling you over and over. You're not even answering. So it's a game changer. It's a game changer for a lot of these agents.
I think, what's really important to understand is that, the moment when someone decides to call is really at that bottom of the funnel, basically, because the internet, they're calling because the internet can't answer a question for them or can't perform a task, right? We typically access the internet to perform a task. We're going to check prices. We're going to look at the weather. We're going to answer our questions. It can do a bunch of stuff for us. But in real estate, it's when you get to the bottom of that funnel and where the rubber meets the road and that person wants to get into that property. The vast majority of the time, the internet can't answer that question, right? You can maybe fill out something up.
Let's hope it stays that way.
Exactly. It's the same reason why we say, we hear people complain about, Zillow's estimates and saying that they're off. And I always say, like, thank goodness they're off, because that causes a good reason for a conversation, because if they were accurate, what would happen?
Right. What they need you for, right?
Right, exactly. So, but I think, that differentiation of understanding that initially the consumer is calling to try and accomplish something, which is the reason why you need to be responsive. And once you are, that creates the conversion, that creates the opportunity to build the rapport and the trust and show your knowledge and everything else. Because I really don't think, or maybe you can correct me on this, I mean, how many agents or how many consumers are calling you and going, hey, Jason, I'm looking for an agent. Are you my agent? Like, that's not what they're calling for, right?
Yeah, no. But usually the majority of time when people call me, they've already done their research and they've already made their choice on who they want to represent them. Okay.
But do you think that they're calling is the vast majority of your calls to accomplish something?
Yeah, they want me to show them a house, or they want to get pre-approved, or they want me to send them listings.
Okay. So it's not like really top of the funnel or like, tell me what I need to do about buying a house. Explain to me the home buying process. It's really kind of further down.
It is.
Okay.
Those calls I get when they're at the top of the funnel is usually like Facebook referrals, or just referrals from a past client. My friend is interested in buying a house. Can you talk to her about the process? But yeah, you're right. When I get these calls, especially from like Yelp, I'm like, if I'm getting a Yelp call, I mean, I'm gonna answer it, because it's typically a listing. Okay. So, they're not calling from Yelp to look at property. They're going to.
They're calling you to basically take their listing.
Yeah,
more than anything else.
10, if I get a call from like a review portal, like a Google or a Yelp, it's for a listing, because they're not going to Yelp or Google to go, find the house. They're going
find a house.
Realtor.com or Zillow or Redfin or something of that nature. So I know if it's a Zillow call, it's more than likely a buyer. I know if it's a Yelp call, and like I said, if it's a Yelp call, 75% of the time, they're calling me about a listing, and I will list that property.
Right. And so knowing kind of mentally as you're seeing that text message come in and knowing that, okay, this is a listing call, you're already in that right frame of mind. You're pulling up that mental script of like, okay, I'm about to nail this basically listing presentation right off the bat, because you already know that that's kind of what's coming in is that.
Right. And what you said, I'm not sure if everybody knows, but I will get a text message first before the phone call comes in. And that text message is going to tell me where the lead is coming from. And it's also going to tell me who the lead is. Okay. So it'll have a link I could click, and it'll show me, the person's, name,
profile,
their demographic. So, if I can see that info fast enough, and I know where they're calling me from, I know where they're located, it's a much better phone call, rather than picking it up like, hello, who is this? I pretty much got, like you said, my game face on.
Your game face right from the very beginning on that very first ring. So it definitely makes a lot of sense. Well, we want to be respectful of everyone's time. We're about 48, 49 minutes into this. Let's open up a couple Q&As, or Jason, if you want to read some of those Q&As on the side, basically, and if you want to answer some of those, and I'll do the same here.
No call action, can't mass text. You can't upload contacts into call action. They have to call you. Okay, so it has to be someone that inquired about a property, because you can't text people that haven't inquired, right? It's a violation.
Well, what we try and do is we're also trying to protect, the agents themselves, because if you send out a mass text, what's going to end up happening is you're going to get lots and lots of responses. And then if you're not responding quickly or in time, you're doing more harm than good, because if I basically, sent you a text message or responded to your text and then you respond 4 hours earlier, like you mentioned, I kind of look like a schmuck. So we don't make that available. There is a holiday drip campaign, which will end up texting all of your people. And I think you use that, don't you, right now, Jason?
What I really like about your drip campaign is that it's essentially that it drips a few amount at a time, rather than because I've done mass texting with LionDesk, and I have to time block about an hour after my mass text goes out to respond to everybody.
To just be there with your thumbs on fire.
Non-stop for like the first half an hour, man. Don't bother me for 20, 30 minutes.
Right.
Hours of operation for autoresponders. Now that's already predetermined, right? You shut those off at like 8 or 9 p.m.
Yeah, so by default, it's from 8 to 9. You can, the initial autoresponder, you can set that up based on your own business hours. So if you want to do 10 or whatever it might be, that's totally up to you, basically. But you can set your business hours. We typically recommend from 8 to 9 p.m. because, realistically, you don't want to set a precedence either for people, being able to text you at 11 o'clock at night. We got to have a life too. And part of what Call Action's goal is to give you a little bit of freedom and get your life back, right?
Well, that's one thing that I love about your autoresponder system is you do have business hours. Some of the other systems don't. So if you get a lead at 3 a.m., you're going to be texting them, and if, you're like me, you're going to be texting them like 5 times in the middle of the night. So yeah, you set your business hours, and if somebody inquires after that, I think me and you have talked about it'd be great to send them like a generic automated after hours message, like "Hi, we hours."
We have some plans for something on there for sure. So
and then in the end, they get a special text saying, "Hey, I got your info last night, and I'm at work. How can I help you?"
Right now, to kind of address David's question here in the chat, basically, which was the after hours or calling really late, what Call Action basically does, and Jason, you might get some of these, and this handles your email leads as well, is right at 8 o'clock in the morning, we'll send out a text message that says, "Hey, I'm following up in reference to your inquiry I received late last night." And we leave it very specifically, very generic like that, because what we find is that people start to respond, right? They're going to go, "Oh, well, what was the inquiry?" And then that's your lead in. That's a very natural transition for you to be able to answer versus saying like, "I got your Zillow inquiry last night, I'm following up." That might fall on dead ears because maybe that person has changed their mind. And then what we're trying to do basically is create engagement. So I know, Jason, you get some of those basically in the mornings, and I think the response is probably pretty high off of that.
Yes. So, I love the after hours. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Cool.
It's a game changer.
And so, as far as like building your database, the fact that you're getting all of those calls basically pushed in and logged in automatically, if you had to take a guess, how many calls a month are you getting, and what's the time savings that you think you have from just all of that automation?
Well, I'm probably getting, 80 calls, maybe 100 calls.
Okay.
Not all hot leads. Obviously, I said, some of them are spam or whatever, but man, it's such a time saver because, the calls I'm getting now, most of the time the information is correct, right? The name of the person who's calling, maybe their email address. But what's so awesome about it is it's getting automatically pushed into my CRM LionDesk, right?
Right.
So now, and we've had to work on that a little bit. But now all their info is in my LionDesk, and I have their name, email. I can set up a separate autoresponder that's long term. Start depending on what lead source they're calling me from. I can send them a specific drip, 8x8, a KW drip campaign or something like that.
Right.
And now I have a mass database that I could sort by all the
Hmm.
different phone calls as well, right? So
Right.
usually you get a phone call before a call action, and what am I doing? I'm writing it down like on a piece of paper, right? I have a
Right.
notepad by my desk. All leads go on my notepad first, and then I put them
Right.
into the CRM. So
Right.
now when I get a call, the info's already in my CRM. The only thing I have to go do is maybe, edit the file a little bit and add
Right.
some notes. So that
Right.
kind of eliminated having the notebook when I get call action calls, because their phone number and hopefully their correct name is already in my database and already sorted
Right.
by the lead source,
By the
which is
lead source and
awesome.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and I'd have to text them before. They have a shortcut where like you miss a call, you push
mhm.
into certain numbers and you text them back. But what if you're in the shower? What if what
Right.
if you're eating lunch? What if you're
Right.
volunteering? Right?
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, I think, it's really subtle. Even that 100, let's say 100 phone calls times, 5 minutes to input it into your database. That's 500 minutes. That's 9.5 hours out of your month that
Mm-hmm.
is taken away doing administrative work, which is data entry. And we've been able to eliminate that for you. So, if you're selling 40 properties and making, four or 500 grand a year, your time is worth 100, $150 an hour. Well, if you're spending 9 hours doing data entry, that's $1,000 worth of your time that, has been saved by that automation. And basically now you have 100% accurate records in your CRM, which would have probably not happened before, as you said, because what's the odds of it getting from your notepad into your CRM?
And the call is completely 100% transcribed.
Right, right.
So
Yeah.
now, before I'd have to take notes and go in there and upload the notes about what we
Upload the
talked
notes and
about.
right,
But now
right.
all I have to do is paste in my notes of the entire conversation,
Copy
which
and
would
paste
be
and go.
awesome if you can send my transcribing over to
Yeah,
my
we do. Yeah, we're working on that with Line Desk. We do that with Follow Up Boss, Top Producer, Tribus, and probably pretty soon Moxie Works. So
Well, come
yeah,
on,
so we are.
David, if you're listening.
All right. Well, doesn't look like we have too many other questions. So we're going to go ahead and kind of close this out here, basically. One last question. How do you get the leads name into Lion
Well,
Desk from David? So,
it comes the call action, knows the caller. It pulls all the background public information from
right.
the cell phone number, and then it exports via email, and LionDesk will do an email parse and bring in all the different fields into where they're supposed to go.
Map the fields and everything. So
And
we do a
yes,
reverse data append. So, yeah.
yes, I do have every number in my phone. Every call action number I have it's saved into my phone with the lead source on there. So as soon as the phone call comes in, I know exactly what the lead source is.
And did you change your ringtone for those? Each one of, you haven't done
I,
that one yet?
I did it because they're all as equally important.
Well, that between that and your regular text message, personal and
Well,
business ringtones,
every
basically.
every noise that comes from my phone is equally important.
Right. You look at it; it's all dollar cha-chings. Basically, should be
I'm
the
looking at my
ringtone.
phone like 5,000 times a day.
All right. Well, sounds good. Well, we're going to go ahead and kind of close this out. Well, we really appreciate everyone attending. Hopefully you kind of learn some ideas and how basically Jason runs his business and those 15 or 20 different pillars of business and different lead sources and how he's valuing basically phone calls and this automation and basically the time savings that come with that. Anything else you want to kind of close out with, Jason, or?
Call action has definitely been a game changer. I know my family appreciates you, and
Well, we appreciate that.
it is really like I said. I used to hate having to run off into the corner somewhere,
Right, right.
and now I don't have to worry about it, and it's really taken a lot of stress away from me too, right? Because
Okay.
you you kind of feel guilty for not answering that phone call.
Right.
Gosh, that could have been $10,000.
Right.
That could have
Right.
been bills for the next couple months. So
Right.
do I spend time with my son, my daughter? Be in the moment. You know,
Right.
or do I
Yeah.
have to feel guilty about not answering my phone calls?
Right.
So now I could be in the moment and still grab that $10,000 paycheck.
Right. Be present basically with your family first and foremost. And also, if you are in an appointment, you can be present with them and give them that undivided attention that they desire and makes them feel good at that moment in time. And they know that you're still basically handling business and taking care of it. And that's what's going to get you referrals and get you reviews like you've done. And that just continually builds on itself as delivering that high level of service by starting off by being responsive.
Yeah, I wouldn't have the reviews if I didn't offer great service.
Right, right. Definitely makes sense. So definitely makes sense. Well, again, really appreciate your time, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll have a recording of this. If anyone has any questions, feel free to pop on our website and engage with us with chat. We'll do whatever we can, and then hopefully we'll see you online, and we'll catch you on the next one. Again, thank you very much. Really, really appreciate it, and we'll see you guys soon. Thank you.
See you later, everyone.
All right, bye-bye now. And let's see how we stop this webinar. Hold on one second, guys. Sorry about that. And backstage. Thank you.